The dry snap of a branch echoes far louder than it should in this empty forest. And it's so quiet. You can't hear the birds' melodious songs any longer. Weren't they just here? Another twig breaks in the distance. Wild animals. Or is it something more? We don't find all too many Leshens in the Witcher world. They are old, nay, ancient creatures. Forest dwellers that keep to themselves, hiding in their woods, waiting for unsuspecting humans to venture into their domain. The ones we do meet are very dangerous, and notably, alone. The Leshen is a territorial creature, sticking to their part of the woods and slaughtering any who dare trespass. In combat, while their branchy talons are certainly deadly weapons, it relies more on its magic and its animal companions. We find that wolves and crows especially aid the creature in defending the woods. And when you come face to face with an ancient Leshen, one of the oldest creatures in this world, be prepared to deal with even more potent magic than the, if you can call it that, regular Leshen. We meet one of these ancient Leshens in the woodland spirit, easily recognizable by its far larger antlers than the younger Leshens. It roams the forest near Fairland, where it is worshipped by the locals, and we see what this truly powerful creature can do. This woodland spirit, as they called it, mastered the power of marking, linking itself to a human in the nearby village. As long as that human remained in the village, alive, the Leshen could never truly be killed. While investigating the creature, Geralt realizes that, though Leshens are generally self-serving beasts, this particular one truly did help the village of Fairland. It trained the villagers that passed its trials in dark rituals. Through these rituals, the men of Fairland became hunters without equal in all of Skellige. Those that did not pass its trials, however, never returned. The village paid for its remarkable hunters with human lives. And when Geralt completes the trials himself, killing a pack of wolves and sacrificing their hearts, the Leshen can be seen observing from nearby, but not attacking. So it seems that some Leshens, in their own twisted ways, are in fact benevolent? While this wasn't included in the game in the end, from an old E3 presentation we gather a bit more information on what exactly happens to the village should you choose to kill the Leshen. The woodland spirit was dead, and Fairland became a village like any other. Soon the fearsome warriors who had once stalked its woods were but a memory. Yet its old quarrels with its neighbors flared anew. The day after the feast, the village was raided. The people of Fairland outlived the woodland spirit by only 3 months. So, without the spirit, without the Leshen, the village doesn't have much going for it. But where did the Leshen come from? What was it based on? In Slavic mythology, the Leshen, or Leshy I should say, as they are also called in the books, was described as a humanoid creature, often dressed in animal skins, that would punish any who entered their forest. They were often accompanied by their symbolic animals, the deer, wolf, and bear. Their face was unnaturally white. Its hair resembled pine needles, living grass, and vines, and its skin appeared as bark. Its right ear, eyebrows, and eyelashes were missing, and its head was somewhat pointed. Their limbs are unnaturally long, and, much like vampires, their shadow is never seen. While in its native forest it could grow as tall as the tallest tree, but the moment it stepped beyond the forest borders, it shrunk to the size of grass. However, no matter how big or small, their eyes are always visible, a very bright green shade. If more than one Leshy inhabited the same forest, they would fight for the right to rule those woods. Evidence of a Leshy fight can be found in the fallen trees scattered about and the frightened animals. They were, without a doubt, the most powerful rulers and protectors of the wood and its wildlife. A sort of deity of success, hunting, and happiness. And really, they weren't all that bad. They took care of pets and helped the poor, but all you found in the forest was its property, and it drew its power from the trees around him. And as we see from the woodland spirit in The Witcher, the forests they live in truly are teeming with wildlife. In other stories, it was also said that should you wander around the forest and encounter a leshy, depending on whether you had something terrible on your conscience, you would either be killed or helped on your way. One of its favorite methods of killing was actually tickling its victim to death, as they are a somewhat mischievous kind of spirit. They like to play tricks on their visitors, although when angered, those tricks would quickly turn treacherous, sometimes turning you sick. And should you wander into the forest alone, you might not see the leshy, but his voice can be heard throughout the woods, laughing, whistling, or sometimes even singing. As you might have noticed, the leshy isn't generally described as an evil monster. Their tricks mostly involve leading visitors to its forest onto the wrong path, winding deeper into their kingdom of trees. They whisper in your ears using the voices of your loved ones, or sometimes cry out to urge you to wander ever deeper into the woods. Don't worry though, to escape the grasp of a leshy after getting lost, all you need to do is sit under a tree, then put your clothes on backwards. Put your left shoe on your right foot and you'll win the leshy's respect, thus allowing you to leave its forests. Cross signs also ward off the creature, and if all else fails, set the forest on fire and don't look back. The leshy will be far too busy with putting out the fire and he'll forget to follow you around. But, friendly, mischievous forest guardians? That doesn't seem to quite cover the Witcher's Leshen. No, it seems there might be some Wendigo influences here and there as well. The Wendigo is also described as a creature hiding in the woods. Whenever it eats, the Wendigo grows in size, equal to the size of whatever it just ate. So, no matter how much it eats, it retains its thin, skeletal appearance, much like the Leshen in the Witcher world. But more importantly, the Wendigo is often depicted with antlers on its head, and the Leshens, of course, are also very closely linked to deers. One of the Leshens we meet is even called Cernunnos. Cernunnos was a stag god from Celtic legends, the father of animals and the patron god of druidism, and he is, of course, depicted with antlers on his head. One of the first books telling a story involving a Wendigo, by Algernon Blackwood, includes a cover of said incarnation of the Wendigo. In some other images, just like the Leshen, they have a skull, flesh stripped away instead of a face, as in The Witcher. From The Wendigo by Algernon Blackwood. The legend is picturesque enough, observed the doctor after one of the longer pauses, speaking to break it rather than because he had anything to say. For the Wendigo is simply the call of the wild personified, which some natures hear to their own destruction. That's about it, Hank said presently. And there's no misunderstanding when you hear it. It calls you by name right enough. Another pause followed. Then Dr. Cathcart came back to the forbidden subject with a rush that made the others jump. The allegory is significant, he remarked, looking about him into the darkness. For the voice, they say, resembles all the minor sounds of the bush, wind, falling water, cries of the animals, and so forth. And once the victim hears that, he's off for good, of course. His most vulnerable points, moreover, are said to be the feet and the eyes. The feet, you see, for the lust of wandering, and the eyes for the lust of beauty. The poor beggar goes at such a dreadful speed that he bleeds beneath the eyes and his feet burn. Dr. Cathcart, as he spoke, continued to peer uneasily into the surrounding gloom. His voice sank to a hushed tone. The Wendigo, he added, is set to burn his feet, owing to the friction, apparently caused by its tremendous velocity, till they drop off and new ones form exactly like its own. The call of the wild personified, much like a Leshen. Vulnerable to fire, of course, but the most important part is the calling of one's name specifically. This is referenced by the Ojibwe scholar Brady DeSanti as well, who states that the Wendigo can be understood as a marker indicating a person, imbalanced both internally and toward the larger community of human and spiritual beings around them. Out of equilibrium and estranged by their communities, individuals afflicted by the Wendigo spirit unravel and destroy their environmental balance around them. Sound familiar? It's not unlike the marking of the ancient Leshen from Fairland. Another interesting fact, which really might be nothing, but it made me think. It's the way Wendigos are created. According to legends, the Wendigo were once humans that made a deal with the devil. And when you look at the Spriggan, a somewhat more human-like Leshen, well, what if a human slowly turns into a Spriggan, and finally into a Leshen? A Wendigo is said to be created after a person, overcome with hunger, eats another human being. They slowly lose their mind and retreat into the wilds, attacking all they meet. And in the war-torn world of The Witcher, that could really happen to anyone.